Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar with Koç University. My name is Melissa Bache. I'm the Director of International Student Recruitment here at Koç University. I'm also joined by my colleague, Ms. Arina Kalina. Arina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Arina. I'm a senior specialist at the Koç University's International Student Recruitment Directorate. And we hope that today's session will be very informative for you. Any questions you have, Ms. Melissa can reply after the info session, but meanwhile, you can also type them in Q&A section, and I will be replying during the webinar.
Thank you very much, Arina. So for today, what we thought we would do is to give you a refresher about Koç University and why it's a great option for your students, and also provide some updates about specific changes that have been introduced in terms of our undergraduate international admissions process, and to talk a little bit more detail about resources we have been developing for you as a high school counselor in terms of how you can guide your students about their application at Koç University, and those that are accepted, then what are the things that they can expect to looking or they can look forward to after being offered admission at our university. We will also be sharing some specific dates when our team will be traveling in different regions, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet with some of you during those travels. You will receive this webinar recording, of course, after today, and you can consult that back anytime, or you can, of course, always get in touch with us through different channels. So to get started right away, we always like to start with a very kind of brief summary of why so many international students have decided to choose Turkey and Istanbul specifically as a place for their university education. So there are certain advantages. Some of them, of course, are comparable to those of other major destination countries like the US or specific countries in Europe or the UK, Canada, or Australia. But it means that Turkey offers the same quality of education at the university level. It follows the Bologna system that it's followed in Europe in terms of European credit transfer system, and the way that programs are structured in terms of undergraduate degrees of 4 years, master degrees of 2 years, and PhD degrees of 4 years, and in other ways. A lot of universities, including Koç University, offer all or a very large proportion of their courses in English, which is an advantage. It means that students do not necessarily need to learn another language in addition to their native language to come and study here. There is a lower cost of living on average than in the major destinations that we mentioned. That has changed in the past year due to very high inflation rates here in Turkey, as of course all around the world. And we will talk a little bit more about that and what that means for students who are considering their specific budget in terms of destination options. It's also a relatively easier country to study in as an international student with regards to the visa application or entry to Turkey as a student, and later on in terms of applying for a student residence permit. There's also a very extensive national scholarship program called Türkiye Bursları, that means Turkish scholarships, which all countries are eligible for, and it helps students to have a full tuition scholarship plus other benefits at Turkish state universities, but also at some selected foundation or private universities such as Koç University. And I will talk a little bit more about, the warmer or cultural and historical aspects of why so many people have chosen to come here to study. The country itself, for those of you who may not be so familiar, it's the Republic of Türkiye. The name also changed recently from Turkey to Türkiye. We're still adapting to that change, of course. The capital of the country is not Istanbul, it's Ankara actually, but Istanbul is the cultural, financial, touristic hub or center of the country, and the official language is Turkish. It has a population of over 80 million people with 81 cities, and the currency is the Turkish lira. As I was mentioning before, Turkey offers a slightly easier way of entering the country when you are accepted as an international student to a Turkish university. There are several countries that offer a visa-free entry or an e-visa entry option that it's purchased online so that students can come in. And those countries that do require them to apply for a student visa, it can be obtained from the nearest Turkish Republic consulate or embassy. And of course, as a university, we support students with the necessary support letters. Once students arrive, the way to be legally here as a student is to apply for a residence permit, a student residence permit. And again, we have a dedicated team, and we will talk more about that team later today, that basically helps students to prepare all the necessary documents and to obtain the permit after they have come to Turkey. One of the drawbacks, I have to say, about being an international student in Turkey is that it doesn't offer as many options to work part-time or during, academic breaks as other destinations do. So the law establishes that international students are able to work after the first year with no maximum number of hours in academic employment. And in terms of non-academic employment, it means that they can start from the first year. However, the employer should obtain a work permit for the students. So this represents a barrier for many employers, especially smaller or medium-sized companies, to consider international students as a viable hire. Right. So this is an image that I think represents a lot for those of us who have been living in Istanbul for a long time. Istanbul is a very big, very cosmopolitan, very large city, and it's a bit chaotic, but that's also part of its charm. So when we look at Istanbul, it's a large city, is now over 15 million inhabitants. It also has 9 islands, for those of you who may not have known this, and it's a very attractive, place to visit during the summer. It's a 4-season city where the lowest temperature is -11. That's the coldest, absolute coldest we've seen, and just above 40 has been the highest. And as I said, there is a ever-growing population of international students from every continent that come and join the city as full-time students or as semester or study abroad students. You can see some facts and figures here on the slide. All of this information, of course, it's available from the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality website for tourism. Another thing that I particularly love about Istanbul is that it's the home of thousands and thousands of cats, dogs, and seagulls. Cats dominate this city. They probably also drink tea and, as you see, sit at cafes. So it's something that a lot of people find very charming and unique about our city. Of course, the more well-known sites are shown here about touristic, because it is a major tourism city in Europe, and it's something that also attracts a lot of students and their families during their time here as students. It's also a city that, despite its very, very large size and extension, has an incredibly good and modern and safe public transport system, which means that students do not necessarily need to live immediately close to university campuses, because they can move around that network fairly easy, even if they don't speak English. And there's several applications, mobile applications and Google Maps, that can help them navigate the city fairly easily. So for international students, as I was mentioning before, there isn't a need to learn Turkish, but it is very recommended, because very few people, I would say, as a percentage of the total population, speaks English to a degree that would help them be understood or understand tourists, including international students. So this is why we do recommend to students to learn a little bit of Turkish during their time here, and we also provide the resources to do that. There is a very large international community, and of course, there's a network and social groups and platforms through which international students can find other people from their countries here in Istanbul. The cost of living, as I was mentioning, has increased over the past few years. At the moment, it's a range between $15,000 to $20,000 per year, depending, of course, on lifestyle choices. And you can see more details on the website shown below. And if you want to know a little bit more in detail about the education system in Turkey at both public and private non-profit universities, we recommend that you check the official government website, which is shown there, studyinturkiye.gov.tr. So just to summarize, maybe some of you have traveled to Istanbul before, or you've had a layover at Istanbul airport, which is a very large, very modern airport. So it's not easy to describe this city after you've seen just one part of it. We say it's also a puzzle because it has so many layers, so many layers of culture, of history, of complexity, that you have to really live here and for quite some time to understand it, and most people do love being here. So now we're going to talk about Koç University specifically. Again, some of you we know are very familiar with our institution and have even visited us, but for some of you, this may be the first time you get to know a little bit more about our academic offering and who we are as an institution. So to give you an overview, we are a young university. We were established 30 years ago, and from the start, we were set up to be a center of excellence that would elevate the quality of education in Turkey and the region, and that would make an impact in terms of research and education, not only in Turkey, but worldwide. So we are a young research-intensive university, small or medium size in the context of Turkey. So right now we have passed the 8,000 student sort of range. Most of those students are undergraduate students, and 10% of all of our students are international. It's something that we're very proud of, and we want to continue increasing that diversity that we have on campus in the next 5 years to reach around 15% of our student body being international. Those students are coming from approximately 84, I think, countries, and this is part of our team's mission to increase, the number of countries that are, contributing to our campus life. Now, I think one of the most important things about our university is our faculty members. So we have over 500 full-time faculty members that have been selected because of their credentials as outstanding academics in their respective fields, and have been recruited from some of the top universities worldwide, especially in North America and Europe and China or East Asia, to come and join our university. So we also try to keep a small student faculty ratio. At the moment, that's approximately 10.9%. And those faculty members teach in, or they are organized around colleges. So we have 7 colleges where we offer 22 undergraduate programs, and all of those programs are in English with the exception of law. So law is not a program that we actively promote for international students for this reason. Being a research university, it also means that we put a lot of effort and resources into continuously expanding the number of the infrastructure and the number of research projects that are available to students, not only graduate students, but also undergraduate students. So they have the opportunity to work as research assistants in over 200 research labs, 25 research centers, and a very, very large number of both European and nationally funded and industry funded research projects across all disciplines. So when we talk about international students as well, something that we're proud of and we like to highlight when we talk about the university is the fact that we do offer scholarships for international undergraduate students as well as graduate students. And from the undergraduate side, about 40% of them do receive a partial merit scholarship. And we will talk about what those scholarships are made of or how do they work. And 2% do receive a full scholarship. So I talked about our faculty members. Just very briefly, this is to give you an overview of where they're coming from. So it's mainly, world top 100 universities, and they have joined here to contribute in terms of research, teaching, and also community service or impact in society. Rankings, again, it's something that doesn't drive our strategy or what we do, but it is worth mentioning because we know that it's a point of, it's a question that we often get asked by parents and students when we are visiting them in different parts of the world. So in that regard, again, considering that we're a very young university, we are already ranked in the top 400 universities worldwide, and specifically in young university rankings, we're also doing very well. In 2023, we were ranked in the top 60 universities. The ranking is 55 by Times Higher Education. In specific subjects, though, let's say the performance, it's even better, such as social sciences and engineering, in which we are now ranked in the top 200 universities or top 250 universities worldwide. Same can be said about business and economics. For example, in business, our College of Administrative Sciences and our Graduate School of Business is the only institution in Turkey that has triple accreditation from both the North American, European, and a third business school accreditation body. So that puts us in the top 1% of business schools worldwide. So besides the university, what life is like as a Koç University student is something that we always like to emphasize, and we always like to invite prospective applicants and students to visit us, because it's one thing to see a presentation or a video, and another thing is to actually experience our campus and meet and see our community members, students, faculty, and staff. So our campus, it's a residential campus. We are located on the northwest side of the city. So we are surrounded by a very green forest. On the back side of the campus, we have the Black Sea with a very nice view of the sea. So it's a very safe, quiet, clean air type of environment that may not fit everyone's tastes. But for those that like that type of mood or vibe in the campus, then they will be very happy here. Of course, because it's a residential campus, it means that we offer dormitories to both domestic and international students to as much as we can in terms of the demand against offer that we have. And, facilities like library, gym, fitness center, swimming pool, and everything they need for their daily routine. So it is hard if you've never been to Istanbul to understand where we are, but when I refer to bridges, so we are very close to the third bridge over the Bosphorus, which is the newest bridge over the Bosphorus, which is the body of water that divides the Asian continent from the European continent. And you often will hear Istanbul referred to as a city that bridges east and west, or the city that has sides or that has parts in two continents. Our campus, even though, as I said, it's surrounded by a green forest on the top of a hill, it's still accessible by public transport. So we are 20 minutes from a metro station, and we have bus routes that come into campus from that metro station. There's a lot of activities that happen on campus in which international students can take part in and take leadership positions or just be participants, from learning Turkish to participating in drama clubs, festivals, career events organized by our Career Development Center. So, there's never a dull moment here, and most of our students excel at managing their time well to combine their academic responsibilities with all of the different sports and career preparation activities and other activities. As I mentioned, we do offer dormitories to international students. The fees for next year will be updated by the end of the summer. But this is something that we try as much as possible to offer to all first-year international undergrad students, because we understand that most families would prefer for them to have the convenience of being inside campus or as close to campus as possible. There is, of course, an application process for that happens after the student has been offered acceptance and has paid their first tuition, their first semester tuition. So all guidance in this regard will be provided by our team in due course. So in terms of the academic offering of the university, you can see now on the screen what is the list of those 22 undergraduate programs that I mentioned. And as I said, all of these programs are offered in English. They are 4 years in duration, with the exception of medicine, which is longer. It has a duration of 6 years. And that does have, as well as nursing, a requirement to learn Turkish because of the clinical courses and interactions that the students will need to have with patients who are mainly Turkish speakers. But other than medicine and nursing, all other programs, with the exception of law, then are in English, and they do not need to learn Turkish. So what happens once a student joins, we want to give here an overview of what a typical 4-year journey for a student looks like. And the first year, of course, it's crucial. It's very important. So we put a lot of emphasis on giving support and mentoring and tutoring and catching problems early on if the student feels that they're a bit overwhelmed with that transition or that change. So there is a required academic and life skills course, and I will talk a little bit about how we give a little preview of that for high school students and in collaboration with you as counselors. We also offer a liberal arts education philosophy. So it means that students, regardless of their major, take specific courses from the core program. And that core program, I'll show you just after this, what it includes, but it's 7 knowledge areas that we consider are crucial for any professional to know about and be aware of, to be a well-rounded person and do good in the world, let's say. The student clubs, of course, that's an important part of the first year and subsequent years. But in the first year, typically students like to join several things and try different things. So there's a lot of options for them, as well as sports teams, fitness group classes, and smaller groups that may not be official student clubs. We also get the Career Development Center to start interacting with students, even though they're in their freshman year, so they can start the journey of their desiring their dream career and what they want to do after graduation. And for those who are experiencing maybe some difficulties in keeping up with the pace or the content of specific courses, when, here I'm talking about courses like calculus or physics, then our Office of Learning and Teaching offers tutoring sessions, which are given by other students who have mastered and know very well the content, and help other students to with exercises, with problem sets, or with specific concepts they may not have grasped during lectures or in their self-study. The core program that I mentioned, it means that the 7 areas that you see here go from social sciences, basic sciences, humanities, economics. Then these are all things that every student, regardless of their major, will need to get some exposure to. And the type of lectures or the type of courses that they would choose from, this is just a very small sample, of course, are courses like the ones you see on the screen. We also offer the option of track programs, and this is a common question we receive from counselors and students as well, that they say, well, I want to study, for example, mechatronics, but it's not listed as an undergraduate program. However, they can pursue that interest by doing a track in mechatronics and robotics, which essentially means they're taking specific elective courses during their mechanical engineering degree, and then they receive a track program certificate, and it's also shown in their official transcript of records. In that regard, we offer a lot of options, and they're based on what we see is the demand from industry, from employers, as well as what students are asking the university to kind of provide more teaching in or more content in. So during year 2 to year 3 or 4 before they graduate, students also have the options of doing double majors, doing minors, and as I mentioned before, track programs. We also offer to them the opportunity to go abroad, so to also leave Turkey for 1 semester or 2 semesters to one of the hundreds of partner universities we have around the world, both in Europe and outside of Europe. So if it's within Europe, it's typically as part of the Erasmus program, and if it's outside of Europe, it's under our global exchange program. They also can gain research skills if they decide to work with a faculty member as a research assistant. And of course, it's up to the student. Nothing here is mandatory. It's absolutely up to them to decide what opportunities they want to take advantage of during those 3 to 4 years. And of course, there's internship available, and this is where our Career Center helps in terms of providing specific databases of internships and full-time jobs after graduation, and also through different networks. So at the end of the road, what we want our graduates to be, or the attributes we would expect them to display after being here for 4 years, are also shown here, right? And this is not very different from what you would see from other universities, but what we always try to do is to instill a sense of critical thinking, of civic consciousness. Like social responsibility is a big part of the values that we try to promote here at Koç University. So now we're going to talk about admissions, now more to why we're here, let's say. Right, so to become a Koç student, we take applications for once in the year, which is for the fall intake. So there is no spring intake at Turkish universities by law. The application period for Koç University opens in January, so it's already open now, and it runs until early July. We also have a late application period that can run until the end of August, but that has some drawbacks in the sense that if a student decides to submit their application during the late application period, it means they will not have an opportunity to apply for dormitory accommodation. So that's something to keep in mind. For medicine, which is a program that, of course, we receive a lot of inquiries about and a lot of interest in, the application period is a compressed one of 1 month, and it's during the month of June. So all the specific dates, of course, are available on our website, which you can see there. It's international.ku.edu.tr, where we also have a lot of tutorials on how to complete the application form, guidance in terms of things like what to talk about in a motivation letter, how to ask for references. So these are all resources that are available for your students to take advantage of, whether they apply to Koç University or not. And there is an application fee as well, which is paid in the online application system. So our process is essentially that of a selective and holistic evaluation kind of type university. There is an initial eligibility check in terms of the minimum required scores in the eligible standard tests or diplomas, as well as the required documents. And I will show what that list of documents is. And then those students that pass that first check are sent for evaluation with the respective admissions committee, whether it's for medicine or engineering or business or any other area. And then those who are selected for admission receive an offer letter that includes both their admission decision, being, for example, fully accepted or conditionally accepted, and scholarship details, whether they have been awarded a merit-based scholarship or not. Those who are rejected by the admissions committee then receive, of course, rejection letters. Those students who decide to enroll, then they accept their offer, pay their first semester tuition fee. We have 2 specific points during the year in which students who have received an offer are invited to complete their payments. And then they complete the enrollment process online just before the start of the academic year, which in Turkey means the end of September. So typically classes start in the first week of October. Of course, the calendar may change according to the national calendar set by the Higher Education Council of Turkey, but typically that's the dates that they can look forward to in terms of starting their studies. So when we look at application requirements, we can see here the list of mandatory documents for all applicants and optional documents. Mandatory documents means that if an application does not have any of this, it will not be sent for evaluation, and the student or the applicant will receive an email notification saying that, until, whatever is missing is submitted, then their application is on hold or marked as incomplete. I will talk a little bit about what are our eligible standard university admission exams and diploma scores. We have been increasing the number of national admission exams and diplomas that can be considered for admission, besides SAT, which is what are the majority of students who apply here apply with. So that's a good thing. That's a good development that we also wanted to share with you. Of course, there's transcripts. Ideally, this would be year 9, 10, 11. And if your school system also includes year 12, then the first semester of year 12 or the first semester of year 11, depending on the country where your school is located. An English proficiency exam result is also required, and this is important for you to communicate to your students that they have to be prepared to take 2 exams, a university admission exam and an English proficiency exam around the same time before the end of June, which is the end of our regular application period, so that they can be considered for admission. It cannot be submitted later. And there is a video interview, which is recorded, is not live. It's not a knowledge-based interview. The idea is that it's a way of verifying their proficiency in English in terms of speaking skills, but also to get to know a little bit about themselves in terms of their personality, opinions, thoughts, and how they reason about specific things. It's for the admission committee members. These are typically deans, assistant deans, and in some cases, professors from the specific department to get to know the candidate a little bit more. In terms of the optional documents, for some programs, we do recommend that even though they're optional, that the students include them in their application. These are, for example, a motivation letter explaining why they want to pursue that major, what specific skills, experiences they have that would make them a good student and well prepared for the program or for the major, and why they chose Koç University specifically. So there are some programs, especially in, for example, nursing, that would like to see what is the motivation for the student to join. Or in medicine, even though it's optional, we still would recommend students to try to include a motivation letter. There's also recommendation letters, one of which can be, for example, from you as a counselor, and it can also be from other teachers, or it can be a combination of all recommendations gathered from different teachers, and it's submitted by you as the university counselor. And these are not uploaded to the application form, but the student needs to write the person's name and contact email address, ideally an institutional email address, so that they can receive a form and then complete a recommendation letter on behalf of the student. And finally, extracurricular activities. These are highly recommended for some programs, but not so much for others. So this means any achievements, awards, certificates of participation or completion of courses, internships, summer camps, anything they have done that has helped them to develop specific skills or areas of knowledge that would be useful as a university student, they should consider including in the application in terms of a CV or listing them on the relevant section of the form. So we often get the question of, do I have a chance of being admitted? If my SAT test score is this, do I get admitted? And our answer is always like, we cannot tell you, because it's not us as the International Student Recruitment Directorate who makes the decision, but it's the admissions committee. However, we do gather data and information from the admitted students each year, and we publish that data in our website, which you can see on the screen. There's a specific page called Admission Statistics under the Undergraduate Program section, and you can see there who joins the university. So in terms of nationalities, these are just a couple of graphs from that page. There's a lot more information there, and I invite you to check it. And as you can see, as I was mentioning before, the majority of admitted students applied with SAT test scores, but we see a growing percentage of applicants who are applying with A levels, with IB diplomas, ACT, and also other eligible test scores. And we will talk about those. When it comes to SAT, for example, we have shown here what was the most recent cohort from fall 2023. What were their median SAT total scores by colleges? So for example, someone who is thinking of studying business administration, they should know that as of, the most recent group that joined the university, their median score in SAT was 1,375. It doesn't mean that if they have a score below that they wouldn't be admitted, but it means that they need to put more attention into the other elements of the application. And that, of course, if they have a score well above that, then their admission chances, of course, are higher. Unless unless, for example, their high school grades are not very good, their motivation letter is not very good if they decide to include one, and so on. And as you can see, of course, there's some programs such as medicine in which the median SAT total score is quite high. From last year, it was 1,515. There's been years which is higher, and the same thing for the College of Engineering. Right, so what are the minimum scores in the eligible exams? In SAT, you can see them on the screen. They vary by college. So the highest minimum score is for medicine, and then SAT and APs. We also often get the question whether if the student has only APs, do they also have to provide an SAT? The answer is no. If their AP final exam scores are above the minimum, for most colleges, the minimums would be 4 out of 5 in a minimum of 4 subjects. And one of the subjects for most programs includes calculus, then they do not need to include an SAT. But if their AP final scores are not likely going to be 4s or 5s, then we recommend to consider taking the SAT. In terms of IB and A levels, you can also see here on the screen what are the minimum scores. All this information is also available on our website under the How to Apply page in the Undergraduate Program section. And then we have the minimum scores for the eligible English proficiency exams, such as TOEFL, where we ask for a minimum of 80 with a minimum of 20 points in the writing section. Pearson Academic, Cambridge, or CAE, CPE. YDS, it's a specific exam for Turkish nationals, so this is just for information. There are tests such as IELTS that are not accepted by the Higher Education Council of Turkey, so this is why we can also not accept it. If one of your students has already taken IELTS and has a good score, well above 6.5, they're welcome to include it, but as I said, their application will be marked as on hold until they can provide one of the eligible test scores. We do offer some benefits to those students who obtain the highest grades in their IB or A-level or AP subjects. So if they obtain the top grade in subjects such as physics, mathematics, chemistry, then they can be exempted from taking the related course at Koç University in their first year, typically a Physics 101, Math 102, or for example, Chemistry 101 course. Now, when we talk about the cost of education, the tuition fees at Koç University for the 2024-2025 academic year are $21,500 per year for all programs except medicine. For medicine, it's $29,500. This fee hasn't changed from last year. The fees in Turkish lira for those, you may have students who are Turkish or who have Turkish nationality because their families have moved here, then those Turkish lira fees will be published on the university website by the end of June 2024. When we look at other costs, we have tried to summarize here some of the typical expenditures that students should expect or should budget for when they're considering coming to Turkey as an international student. So as we mentioned before, accommodation can range between $4,000 to $10,000 per year. This is in terms of on-campus accommodation. The official new dormitory fees have not been published yet, but when we look at the current prices and also rental prices in off-campus housing, this is the range that they should be budgeting for. In terms of other expenditures such as food, clothing, internet, mobile phones, it's of course less, and this is where it becomes much more affordable than other destinations. It can range from $500 to $1,000, and with study materials, that's a bit higher as well, between $200 and $400. As I mentioned, we are very proud to be offering international undergrad scholarships based on merit, academic merit. So all applicants are evaluated automatically. There is no separate form or separate timelines or application deadlines for scholarships. Students apply for admission to a program, and whilst they're being evaluated for admission, the admissions committee also makes a decision in terms of whether to award a merit scholarship or not. And the type of merit scholarships that we have can be full, meaning that the student will not pay any tuition for the duration of the program, meaning 4 years, for example, or 75%, which would bring tuition to around $5,000 a year, or 50% or 25%. There's also no specific GPAs or exam scores that determine whether a student receives a scholarship or not, because it's done on a holistic basis. So it means that even if a student has a very high SAT or another eligible test score, still, if other elements in their application are not very strong, they may not be awarded a scholarship or a high scholarship that they may need. The scholarships only include tuition, so it's a tuition waiver, so they do not include other costs such as dormitories or books, meals, or any other expenses. And we do not offer scholarships for the School of Medicine, so this is also important to remember. So hopefully some of your students will apply for admission to our university this year, and we will be welcoming them in September, October, later this year. So those of your students who will be accepted, what they can expect, right, is that after they receive an admission offer, there will be a series of emails that our team will be sending to them with information about what to do and resources that they can use to make that transition and to be prepared and to not have any setbacks on the process of paying their tuition, applying for dormitories, gathering all the required documents for registration, preparing themselves mentally for their well-being, and preparing for orientation week. We have also, of course, all of these resources in our admitted students page, which you can see the address on the screen, and they can consult that. It's included in their admission offer as well. And one thing that has been very useful for us is inviting admitted students to join a mobile app called Going Connect. You can see the website on the screen, which is a place for them to meet their future classmates. So for example, a student from I don't know, from Bulgaria, who wants to know if there's other students from his country coming to Koç. That's a way that they can create a group or connect individually and plan and make friends before they arrive. And it's also a place for them to ask questions to current Koç students. So we have an international student buddy program, as well as other international students and Turkish students who join the app. So it's a chance for them to ask questions that they may not have found an answer just online if they've never traveled to Turkey or to Istanbul and they want to ask about academic, non-academic things, and it's a very useful resource. And then after students arrive, this is a picture from our large orientation process. They will be in touch, well, before arrival and after arrival, with a specific team, which is the International Community Services Office. They're a very dedicated, very hardworking team that makes sure that all of our international students have the best welcome and that they are well informed about what they need to do in the first few weeks and months after arrival. So besides bureaucratic support in terms of visa, residence permit, opening a bank account and things like that, they have a lot of online resources and they organize orientation sessions for international students, and they run a lot of social integration activities, programs, and projects to make sure that students feel welcome and, a vital part of our community. These are just a glimpse of those activities. One of the most successful ones in the past few years have been the Guides program. So these are students or staff that volunteer to do guided tours around Istanbul, around specific themes, whether it's culinary, architectural, historical tours. And it's a very nice way of bringing together Turkish and international students around Istanbul on a fun activity. So we also offer, this is a very quick information because you may have students that you're starting to advise from year 10, as well as year 11, not only year 12, of course. So they may be looking for opportunities to experience living abroad, but for a shorter period. So in that regard, we do offer high school winter camps, which are online, though they wouldn't travel here, but it's a good way for them to explore different subject areas or majors they may be thinking about or they're interested in, such as psychology, programming, economics, biology, industrial engineering. So they take place online. The applications just closed very recently for this winter session, but of course it's something to keep in mind for next year. And we also offer, of course, summer camps, which typically take place between July and August, and they are on campus in a face-to-face format. And it's a combination of courses plus social activities. And all high school students, of course, have a Koç University student mentor or buddy that advises them from the time they arrive. So we have 3 different camp options. So the first 2 that you see on the screen, Summer Academy and Pre-College camps, are course-based. And the idea is that they are taking university-level courses or adapted courses, meaning that the content, it's simplified a bit to, due to the fact that they're high school students. And the social activities, of course, it's the fun part that all the students love about it. And for those that want to improve their level of English proficiency, we do have an English camp that it's quite intensive, and it also happens at the same time. So the application period for that typically starts in April, late April, and the fees, we put the fees for this year as a reference, but of course this will be adjusted for before the summer. Right, so we wanted to talk to you also today. Let me see how we're doing in terms of time. Yes. Okay. That first of all, we do travel quite a lot, especially in the Middle East, North Africa region, as well as Central Asia, and in some cases to Europe. And we really appreciate the opportunity to visit your schools and meet with your students and talk to you about what are your challenges, what are you looking for, what information you need from us. So we have shown here what are the dates and which countries we will be in for this year. Of course, there may be some dates that we add later on, but if you want us to visit your school, please do get in touch, because we will do everything we can to make sure that we include it in our travel schedule. So we have developed a specific webpage under our international admissions website, which is for you, for high school counselors. And the idea is that you can find all the information you need there as you're trying to advise students. And we also have a counselors newsletter that we aim to send to you twice a year, and with information about recent updates, changes in the admission requirements, statistics, and events that we think will be useful to you. On the screen, you see a picture. This was a small familiarization trip from counselors from UAE. So again, if you also want to visit our campus as a group or individually, also get in touch with us to see if we can do that. Okay, we don't have structured familiarization trips as other universities do yet. We're working on it. And we also wanted to share a couple of resources that you may not be aware of, which is especially for younger students who may be in year 10, year 11, or even in year 12, but who are still not sure about what to study. We have a very useful playlist on our YouTube channel. If you just type Koç University International Admissions, there is a series called Explore Your Future. We have also webinars about what it's like to study medicine, what it's like to study biology, for example, but this playlist is narrated by professors from each of those majors, and they give a glimpse into what are the strengths of the program, what they can look forward to in terms of career opportunities or career options, what are the fun things, what are the not so fun things about studying that major, and it's worth a listen. So it's a playlist that I would recommend that you share with your students as a resource in their, in their research process. And we also have a summer research program for high school students. The details of it for 2024 summer are currently being prepared, but it's a good opportunity for those who are curious about specific areas and want to have the opportunity to start developing research skills to come to our campus and work with a professor as a research intern for a month or 2 months between typically July, August. It's a free of cost program because it's not based on courses. We are not able to offer accommodation for this summer, unfortunately. Hopefully in the future, we will be able to do that again. But again, if they have the possibility of finding accommodation in Turkey and their budget allows them to, it's a great opportunity for students. And we also have an online workshop that it's essentially a summary or a very concentrated version of the course I mentioned at the start, the Academic and Life Skills course. And it's about the transition from high school to university. And it's a workshop that if you would like us to provide to your students, and it would help to complement the different information and sessions that you're doing with your students, we would also love to collaborate in that regard. Finally, we joined last year the Concourse platform, so we wanted to let you know because we know some of you may be already there and some of you may be considering joining so that you can help your students receive offers from universities from all around the world. So we just wanted to let you know that Koç University is now also on Concourse. If you want to contact our team, we have shared here our contact details, and specifically my colleague Arina, she mentioned she's responsible for the Central Asia region as well as Pakistan, and our colleague Ahmed, he's literally like right now taking a flight to travel to Kuwait. So he's responsible for our Middle East, North Africa region. So if you have any queries and your school is located there, you can get in touch. And if you're from a school that is not located in those two regions, you can get in touch with me anytime. So that's all from us from today. I want to thank you again for joining. I know it's very late for you in some places and very early in other places. This is some of our contact details. And now we also have a TikTok account. So I don't know if you will be there, but your students may be there. And of course, YouTube and Instagram. And it's also a good place for your students to get to see what life is like as a student at Koç University. And of course, the main information source will always be our website, which is shown on screen. It's international.ku.edu.tr. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the session for today, and I will check if we have any questions or any comments from the attendees. Check here. In the meantime, I will stop recording so it's not such a long recorded session.